So each time I do a video, each time I have an inspiration to create something, I'm learning to trust that the fact that the urge arises in me to share something means that there's someone out there who's looking for this information, or they might resonate with it. And today's subject has really required a lot of trust because it's very personal, and it's also really, really out there. So today I want to talk about astral projections, or also called out-of-body experiences, astral travel. And I want to share a little bit about what my experience has been with it. If you don't know what it is, I'll share a small introduction about what it's like for me. And for those of you who do know about it, maybe you will resonate with this. So I just want to make a little disclaimer, first of all, that I'm not here to teach of how to do this, of how to access these states. I know that there are people out there who do courses, and you can read books about it, and there's tips and tricks and practices and techniques of how to achieve these states. I'm not going to do that because I've never actually done a course. I've never really even explored what it's like to create these experiences, because for me they happen spontaneously, and they have been happening for many years. It doesn't happen every night. Usually it is at night, but not necessarily. And I'm not really concerned with the frequency of it, because I do really trust that it happens exactly when it needs to happen, at the frequency that is useful for me, for my learning and for my understanding. So a small introduction would be that astral projections, or astral travel, or out-of-body experiences, it's a state of being in which you enter a sort of a dreamlike sensation in your body, and you leave the body. So you remain fully aware. It's like you're participating in a dream, but a dream is fully under your control. You are a sovereign being in that dream, and you are able to manipulate what happens. You're able to decide what you want to access, what sort of information you want to explore, where you want to be, what you want to do. You can receive suggestions, or even sort of training like classes, a sort of experience if you so choose. And it's a really interesting state to be in, because you're fully present, you're fully aware, and yet you're not in your body, and you're not connected to your body. And then you can return to your body, and you're back in your life, and you continue life. But it feels like a dream, but it's not a dream, because you're fully aware, and you receive information that is very relevant to you and to perhaps the questions that you're seeking to understand. So for me, it started when I was a kid. I remember having these experiences of feeling really horrified, of sort of a state of being stuck in a dream and not being able to escape, and feeling like I'm awake, and yet, I'm shouting for help, I'm asking my mom to come, and yet I'm not able to escape that dream-like experience. And I do believe that this is something that happens for many people, because even in Wikipedia, which I don't believe is a great source of information for some things, but they do mention a sort of sleep paralysis, an experience where many people will enter a very frightful state where they feel they're awake, and yet they are not awake. And they usually report having a heaviness on the chest, or a being, they will call, or some kind of just a very terrifying experience of having a presence that is not letting you move out of the dream, that you cannot escape, a sort of nightmare. And so for me, this is how it started, and this is how it continued for many years. But I do remember one specific event in which I suddenly became aware of this sort of leaving the body experience. And that was, I was a teenager, and I remember it was a time of my life with having to study a lot and preparing for exams a lot. So I used to be quite tired during the day. And I was reading Carlos Castaneda book at the time, which is a great resource for altered states of being, if it's something that's interesting to you. And I was reading his book, and then suddenly I remember falling asleep with a book on the carpet, just on the floor, and having that experience of sort of seeing my body, being fully conscious and aware, and seeing my body asleep, and this experience of me not being there, and yet being me, and being awake and aware in consciousness. And so over the years, it was an experience that it was really frightening, because usually it starts with a sound. It's a sound like a sort of a swooshing, a vortexy, sort of a hurricane-like sort of swirling sound. And sound itself used to scare me a lot, because the first thought would be like, wow, this is happening and I can't stop this, and this is going to be horrible, and I'm going to be really scared, and I cannot control this, and it's going to take me places. And so it would start into this experience of feeling really, really terrified, usually encountering really strange sort of warped reality, usually being in my own room and then seeing objects in a sort of twisted and strange way, or seeing as if I'm going within my room and the room has changed, or trying to reach an object and the object does something unexpected. This sort of very, very creepy is the word, experience, and not being able to control it in any way. And then usually would end up me spiraling out of control in fear, in horror, and waking up with like my heart palpitating, shouting, trying to get out of this dream, trying to wake myself up out of it, out of the dreamlike experience. And it's only been over the last 2 or 3 years that I have really learned so much about this, because especially last year was happening very, very, very commonly to me, perhaps once every week or something like that. Usually for me right now it happens maybe every 2 weeks, which is a perfect amount of time for me to process what I experience. And so over the last 2-3 years it has become something really incredible, because I feel like I've learned to focus, and I've learned to understand what it is all about. So in the day-to-day life, as we move around our experiences, if you have a frightful state or if you have a happy state, things in the physical reality, experiences take some time. There's a lag for things to sort of be created, to manifest. So if you have a thought about something really, really fearful, it's not like that fearful thing happens right now. You know, like if you spend a lot of time being scared about something, it's not going to happen straight away, because we have this ability, living in the slow universe that it is, the experience that we have as humans. There is a time lag, so experiences don't immediately turn from thoughts that we have into things, into physical reality. It can, but not always. But in the astral projections, in the astral travels, everything happens instantly. There's a very fast moving energy, and if you have a frightful thought, that's exactly what's going to be created in your experience. Or if you have a happy thought, if you manage to focus and change the momentum, the inertia of whatever's happening, and to really control your state of being, there's an access to incredible, ecstatic, orgasmic states of being outside of your body, and yet experiencing things, experiencing travel, experiencing cities, leaving this planet, accessing really cosmic level information that is relevant to you perhaps, in a very, very awe-inspiring, very mysterious, very interesting, very magical way. And so I've learned that over the last 3 years to really focus in these dreams, and to really, I call them dreams again, but to really focus in these experiences and to become quite good at seeing where I need to turn my attention to be able to navigate them, and to not spin out of control, to not spin into horror like they used to be before. And so I just wanted to share as an example, for example, what happened to me a couple of nights ago, that I had one of these experiences, astral projection or astral travel experience, and just to show you as an example of what kind of information comes to me, which I find fascinating because I'm interested in these types of things. And yeah, what kind of, lately for me it feels like a training. When I have these experiences, I feel like I love learning, I love being in a classroom, and it feels a bit like classroom, that I'm able to ask questions about how the universe works, what is relevant to our experience here on this planet, and it comes in a very interesting way. It comes in symbols, but in symbols that are relevant to me and interesting, to me. So in my last experience 2 days ago, I had an invitation to understand what it's like in the polarity of the, if we could call it darkness perhaps. But you might know that just like on the piano, you go from lower sounds, lower notes to higher notes. There's a whole scale, a whole spectrum of sounds that the piano can emit. It's the same in terms of energy or frequencies or vibrations in this universe, that there's very low frequency, very slow moving frequencies, perhaps more associated with darker states, with our own more depressed states, darker energies, beings that are here to experience the polarity of sort of destruction, of constriction. And then there's the higher frequency states and higher frequency beings, higher frequency dimensions that are here to expand, to unite, to join into oneness, to experience very blissful states, to create love-like states and all of that. And so there's this polarity in the universe. We're used to, and we're trained to, from very young age, to see one as bad and the other one as good. So it's bad if you are angry, it's good if you're happy. It's bad if someone does something horrible, it's really good if someone does something kind. The way I understand it, and from my experience of playing with these worlds and these different experiences, it's not like that. The dark side, if we want to call it, and the light side are two sides, two polarities that are absolutely essential to the evolution of the universe, to the evolution of thought, evolution of consciousness, and they both play in a way together, and we have absolutely a choice. Which one do we want to participate in? Do we want to participate in the destruction, in the sort of darkness side, or do we want to participate in the creation, in the light side, in the love side of things? And they both essential. If you think about a strawberry, the strawberry needs the creation part to become, and the destruction part to rot and to return back into the new cycle. And so the same law applies to everything in the universe. And so in this particular dream, I was invited to have the experience of these lower, the darker side of frequencies, which is not something that I'm generally really drawn to, something that naturally, there's a fearfulness in having these experiences, because it's a very strong energy, and it's not necessarily pleasant. And also the idea that I knew in these states, because the rule is that whatever you focus on is going to happen very quickly, I felt like the invitation to experience these darker states was nearly a guarantee that I would have a very scary experience. I would have a nightmare and would spin out of control again in fear and in horror and in sort of terror of the whole vision of what I was about to see. But at the same time, I felt like in order to train myself, in order to understand this, I have to experience it. Like, I was curious enough. I felt like if I'm able to focus on this, then there's something really interesting that I could see it. So in a way, it felt a bit like a trick that the dark side was inviting me, because it knew that I would lose my focus. But then I also felt like, no, if I am able to maintain my focus in this state, I potentially could experience something really interesting. So I agreed to be able to see this, to see how frequencies, how resonance plays on our planet in terms of the darker, the lower energies. And it was really interesting to see. It was presented to me as a sort of layers, that in a way there are humans that on this planet live in a state that is not necessarily evil, but maybe begins as sort of a state of apathy, a state of being sort of mindlessly moving through their lives, that is not really concerned with necessarily creating or being very conscious creators of their reality, that they're sort of living in a very just very programmed, very constricted state of being. And that's where these lower energies begin to really have influence. And as the layers go down, you see how there's consciousnesses that are actually here actively. There's also actively consciousnesses on this planet that are here to do the work of destruction, that they're here to be involved in the creation of these experiences, of dark experiences for humans, in order to create perhaps their awakening or their moving into the higher states of being. And so I was shown for example, that there are many groups even of humans that are here on this planet doing a very interesting work of being very controlling, that they're here to control other human beings as a state. That's their work. Very controlled, very organized groups that are here to do, if you want to call it harm or evil. I was shown over and over again how many layers there are of these organized groups, of sort of military complexes, of very organized programmed beings that are here to do harm to humanity, to control us, to awaken us to this darkness and to switch us into the light eventually, if we so choose. As these layers of consciousness grew darker and darker in my experience as I was being shown, there was a layer of where the consciousness as we perceive as human stops being human. It's like a switch from humankind to some kind of hybrid forms, hybrid beings that are here also sharing experiences on this planet and are here to do harm. If we call it harm, if we could call it this work of darkness, and they're here, that's their job, that's their assignment on this planet. And then the final layer that I was shown was a sort of a symbolism for death, for destruction. And I remember in this moment feeling absolutely horrified because I was about to experience what it's like to be destroyed. And I knew that the experience is so horrific that the absolute utmost focus was needed, and only in a split second of actually facing this symbol of that really low frequency of destruction, I had a feeling of losing my energy. I felt like I started feeling dizzy. I started feeling very unwell, like my energy was seeping, like I was sort of losing wellness out of my body. And I do remember that in that moment, the choice, the lesson, the training for me was that absolutely everywhere, no matter which state, no matter if it's in a dream state, if it's in an astral travel state, if it's in this awareness of day to day playing on this earth field, we have complete and full sovereignty of our energy. Even if it's something that we have agreed, even if I've said to you, okay, let's play this rough and tumble game that now I'm gonna, experience something dark, or if I wanted to see this, but now I'm not so sure anymore, we always have a right to say, no, I'm finished here. Even if we had a contract with you and me that we'll meet on this planet and we'll experience some kind of really difficult conflict or difficult relationship, that at any point I can say, not necessarily to you, but in the field that I am, to say I'm finished with this. I am done and I do not want to experience this anymore. I've learned my lesson. I do not want to play with this experience. So everywhere we have this sovereignty, and this is the experience that I had in the astral projection state, that even in the face of this symbol of destruction, of this absolutely horrific energy of complete darkness, I have a right, a state, a complete sovereign impulse, intention, ability to set that intention and say, I'm done with this. And so that's exactly what I felt. And in that state, I suddenly began to sort of restore myself. It was like an experience of saying that I restore all energy, I return it back, I return back all the perfection of the geometric sort of energy fields that are around us, and I come back to the state of being absolutely completely well. And in my state of astral dream, I could see suddenly light shining around my body, everything sort of returning into these beautiful sacred geometry patterns, and feeling this dizziness disappear, and feeling fully restored, and feeling back into myself. And so the experience here was to play with darkness, to accept that permission, to accept that invitation to see it, and also to realize that the lesson there was to see that we're sovereign, even in the evilest of times. We're sovereign beings, that we can change our focus and to decide which energies we want to play with. And so the other really interesting experience in that same night that I had because lately I'm super interested in understanding sort of the nature of reality. Like what is this place that we're in? Like what is this planet? And I was shown, again, a symbol relevant to me that you might find interesting. I was shown that the whole reality is a sort of, is made up of pixels. It's like a hologram. It's like a movie. And so no wonder that what I experience and what you experience is a completely different thing. Like if you think of it as a phone, you know, your phone screen is full of pixels, and I have a phone that might be absolutely the same model, but yet when I look at my screen and when you look at your screen, we see completely two different things. You see perhaps the films, the information, the Instagram accounts that you follow, and I see things that I'm interested in. So you might be watching a horror film while I'm laughing at a comedy. And it's absolutely the same way that our bodies, this is what it was revealed to me in this astral projection, the latest one, our bodies are like a very high technology, very, very advanced technology that is able to interpret frequencies that arrive to us and match them. The frequencies that arrive to us match our inner state of being, and therefore these pixels that we see, the reality that we perceive, they light up accordingly to our state of being. So if you are in a very, very depressed, in a very low state of being, the pixels that will light up around you will be repetition of that state of being. The frequency will be that. You will see a film that is very sad and very depressed and very scary. If you're able to maintain your focus and reach for higher states of being, you'll experience perhaps being in the same room completely differently. You'll see more elevated states of being. You'll see different things about people. You know, you could go to the same party and one person has a horrible time and another person has an amazing time. So this is that kind of explanation that we are here as beings who are very, we're very sensitive, and we are sort of receptors, translators of energies and frequencies that come to us, and that's how we experience reality. And each of these pixels, each one of these threads that this reality is made of can experience infinite, can light up in infinite, in millions of different ways. The possibilities are endless, and it all depends only on the observer. So the way I observe the universe will light up for me differently than the way from someone else who's observing it from a different angle or a different state of being. And so one of the things that really came from me in this latest dream was the astral projection. I keep calling them dreams because it happens at night, and it's really strange to say that, you know, I was there, like I was there just as much as I am here now. That there is this massive, massive, massive amount of light currently moving through the cosmos and arriving to our planet, flooding every single of these pixels, every single of these threads with new possibilities, with incredible new upgrade. And what we're seeing in a way as destruction, as chaos, as really, really heavy states of being, at the same time, there is an absolutely, absolutely unheard of amount, a storm of light flooding through absolutely every single pixel that this whole hologram is made of. If you think of it as a computer program where suddenly your phone is getting a massive upgrade, it's the same except a million, billion, trillion, million times more powerfully, that everything that we can experience is being elevated, upgraded, activated in a completely new way, that possibilities are arriving that weren't here for us before, if we so choose to experience, because everyone is here to experience different things. But if you do choose, there's light and magic and absolutely extraordinary states available to you if you set that intention, because the entire fabric of reality is being upgraded, lighted up, renewed, restored, replenished. Yeah, infinite possibilities. Yeah, this is what I wanted to share. I just want to encourage to trust what's happening, and also be curious and follow your curiosities. That if something does interest you, like for example astral travel, perhaps there's something there for you, and yeah, we can play together. Thank you so much for listening.